The na-na-na song, yes. The ball is dropping soon. New Year's Eve.
And all acquaintance be forgot.
I sang that with my son Drew in this musical that we did recently, and we realized why nobody knows the words. The whole thing is in like whatever the version of Gaelic or Celtic is in Scottish. We twa I run about the braes and put the gowans down. It's like, oh, that's why we don't know the words.
Yeah, and puts the gottens down. Yeah,
yeah.
Yep. I like the na-na-na version better.
I might go to bed before the ball drops because I'm tired. But yeah, we'll celebrate tomorrow morning.
You know what we do?
Yes.
We watch the YouTube video of the ball dropping in London, 7 p.m., and then we have it go off, so it's actually the New Year in London or wherever.
That's the way to do it. That's probably what we'll do, because last year was new for us being on the East Coast. We used to always celebrate in California, Pacific time, but we'd always celebrate with you guys in real time. 9 o'clock, everyone, ball's dropping, we're going to bed. Can't do it anymore here. Well, welcome back. It is New Year's Eve, final day of the year, of the decade. Welcome back to another episode of the Entrepreneurial Family Man Podcast. I am Chris Niemeyer, here with my good friends, Christopher McCluskey, Michael McGreevy, and Jamie Slingerland. 4 guys, crazy about our wives. We love our kids, and we want to kill it in business. And this podcast that we get to do every week is just that safe place to talk about those dangerous ideas of mixing those 3 domains all together, the extraordinary life that we get to live, and we're living alongside you. So today we just want to explore, hey, it's New Year's Eve, the final day of a year. There's a lot of talk, a lot of chatter out there, especially online about 2020, clear vision, everything. I don't know about you guys, but I tend to move fast and forget to pause and to reflect and to appreciate the year that just happened. Before we jump into 2020, we want to pose 4 questions as you ring in the new year. 4 questions to ask yourself as you look at the year in review and look forward to a year ahead. So I'm just going to pose it. We'll just get right into this, guys, if that's all right with you. Number 1, what was the biggest challenge you overcame and wins worth celebrating from this past year?
Right for the jugular, Niemeyer. You asked that. What was your biggest struggle? Well, I can go first because I had a lot of them. 2 weeks into the year last year, I lost my number 1 product that I sell on Amazon, which made up about 30% of my revenue. And so I had a lot of questions around that. What is going on here? Like, did I do something wrong? I just made a pivot. I'm thankful for such a great partner. Ruthie was super optimistic and super hopeful, always coming to me and saying, well, God is up to something new, like a new adventure and maybe a new product, a new way of doing business. I'm actually grateful for that struggle because of all the possibility thinking that it brought. And you guys, I want to thank you for supporting me in that. You guys were always, I borrowed a lot of confidence from you guys saying, you know what, you got it, Jamie, you got what it takes to figure this out, and don't miss out on what God is doing. So I couldn't have done it without Ruthie and you guys. So thank you guys.
Absolutely. My mind is wandering a little bit, and I've seen you go through that journey. I'm just wondering when you're going to give the confidence back that you borrowed, because I could use a little bit as well.
I'm waiting for the big dip for McGreevy, because you've had such a banner year of such growth, and I know that as soon as you're below 100% growth, you got a shoulder to cry on over here. McGreevy.
He's giving him back after that. Confidence can go back to your way.
Maybe you can go next, McGreevy, because you've had just an amazing year. You inspired me, the coaching that you're doing and working with companies and CEOs and executives, high-level leaders over at McGreevy Leadership. Super excited about what's going on for you.
Thanks, buddy. Is anyone else wondering what's going to happen to the news show 2020 and 2021?
Hey, deep thoughts from McGreevy again.
There's this hair place that opened, I think, in the year 2000, and the name of it is Hair 2000, and it's like in this town that's outside of the city, and they're still going. I'm like, Is that what 2020 is going to be like, the show? 2025 and we're still watching 2020? That's so 5 years ago. Anyway, that's a little glimpse into my scattered brain. As I look back on 2019, the word abide is what I wrote on my little Christmas tree stump, and that was my focus for all of 2019. For me, it was an invitation to rely and trust in God for my own validation, for my business, for who I am as a father, for who I am as a husband. I'm just grateful that I was able to take a few steps forward in that arena. I learned a lot through working with a coach and diving deep, really learning about who I am. And I feel a whole lot more comfortable in my skin after this year. And it's allowed me, honestly, to take my business more seriously. Look at what I have right in front of me and value that more than trying to look outward for my own confidence and to really figure out who I am. That's been my journey, and I'm really grateful for it in 2019. McCluskey, I'll pass it to you.
Well, I'll take it from you. It's been a great year, but I'm going to focus right now on the culmination of a 10-year goal. Let's just say I had a very big, audacious goal for myself by the time I was 55 years old. And I am still 55 years old. In another month and a few days, I'll be 56. I not only hit that 10-year goal, I exceeded it this year. And so I am kind of over the moon, really, rejoicing over the Lord's favor, the blessing, having come out of a previous decade to that was the decade that we often refer to as the dark years, when I was so ill and wasn't at all clear that I would even be here alive, let alone in a solvent place, business-wise and family-wise. God's mercies are new every morning, and I'm rejoicing in wrapping up a year and a decade of just tremendous blessing. What about you, Niemeyer?
Hey, for me, this was quite a year. I had a lot more time and margin from one of my businesses to grow into something I felt called into. This year, my word was focus, and I needed to focus in on that. And developing this whole idea of a personal brand and helping people organize and systematize and kind of get their business going. I had to kind of overcome what that was going to look like, wrap my mind around how I wanted to help people, and really found this lane of niching into this like fractional executive coming alongside an existing business who needed that 30,000 foot view of here's what I have, but I just need someone like a CEO to help me navigate this. And so now I've got my hands in a couple of different businesses with equity. I'm just feeling like alive when it comes to using my gifts in a new way. Right around that time, we got displaced from our house for about 10 weeks and had this crazy mold issue. We talked about on the podcast a couple of times, living out of hotel rooms with a family of 6. Boy, it was tough. And we had to overcome that. But it also got us through identifying what we wanted to do with our house, with our home here in Florida. We're new to the area, and we've just had some realizations. Getting ready to sell this house, we bought what we feel is like a dream home, a dream place for our family to set roots in. And so just overcoming that was just a challenge, within a marriage, within family, identifying how do you go through all that. So it's been a fun year to navigate all that together. So I want to move on to question number 2. Again, before we jump into 2020, look at celebrating 2019. The second question, what am I most proud of for accomplishing, or who did I become during the journey of 2019? I want to look at that question through the lens of EFM, through what we've been able to do together with our community, with the guys that we've been able to live life with. What are we most proud of accomplishing, or who do we become during this past year's journey?
I know we did that episode several weeks ago that I think it was McGreevy. You were the one saying that the Slingerlands, that we should share that story about our dog dying. And we had that whole episode just on how our family grieved. 2019 was just a year of me slowing down and being a lot more in touch with my feelings and my sensing. And so this year, I think I grew spiritually just by leaning into some hard, difficult things emotionally. I'm going to quote McCluskey on here because he always says that at least you know you're alive when you're going through that. And I have to say, 2019 was a year of feeling alive because I had that dynamic range of emotion, senses, feelings, and thoughts. I probably lived most of my life in my head, just with mulling around my thoughts and navigating that. And this year I got to feel. So I'm looking forward to making that a regular sacrament or a regular process of telling myself, what else is going on here besides just the facts. So, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, Niemeyer, what about you? So, what about you?
Well, I'm going to answer that again through the lens of EFM and what we're able to do. We just had a great call with these guys that have been in our mastermind for this past year. We've been able to walk life with each week on calls and in the WhatsApp thread. But man, just hearing them reflect on these kind of questions and seeing the powerful growth in each of their lives in each of these different domains. And man, we shared some deep stories this past year. We shared challenges and the highs and lows of marriage, of entrepreneurship, challenges in fathering, some celebrations too. And there were tears of joy, there were tears of pain that we shared. But just to hear the impact that this kind of message, this kind of life that we're pursuing is extraordinary and it's worth it. There were guys that, as an aside, talked about how much massive increase they had in their business, but they're mostly focused on those meaningful trips they took that they thought once in a lifetime. Now it's going to become a regular thing. The guys that hadn't dated their wife for years and started the year saying, if we go on a date once a quarter, I'll call that a win. Now they're dating like every other week, plus they're dating their kids. Like, there was so much richness that was shared there that I think that's a major, major win that I'm excited about. Just kind of gave me like an extra lift in my step today.
Yeah, I would echo that. That was a big one for me, but you covered it pretty well. So I'll step into another one. We just passed 100 episodes with EFM. To wrangle 4 entrepreneurial family men on a weekly basis to record episodes and not miss one in the past 2 years is a huge accomplishment for us. And, when you're right out of the gate, it's new, it's exciting, you're covering content that you're passionate about, but then you get into that year 2 and some of the excitement fades. You have to be a little bit more intentional. We still love having these conversations, but we showed up every week. I know I benefited from those conversations, and I think we all did. I'm just proud of all of us for sticking it out and continuing to have those intentional conversations and to help a lot of other men listening to think about those same topics we're talking about. So well done, guys.
I'm going to say that as I look back on this year and think about one of the things that I am proudest of, most pleased with, the biggest accomplishment, it's on the front of my being a dad. You never stop being a dad. It doesn't end when they get to, 18 is the one you always hear, I can't wait till they get to 18, get out on their own. Don't even rehearse that once. That is the dumbest mindset to start rehearsing. I don't know a single 18-year-old who is ready to go out and really face the big wide world and deal with all the challenges of real adult life. I don't know a 20-year-old who's ready. I don't know too many 22-year-olds that may be graduating college, or 23, 24. That decade from about 16 to about 25 years old, man, there's so much becoming that our kids go through. And so as I look back on this year, I've got a bunch of kids in that age bracket. In fact, it's only my 2 youngest kids that are still 12 and 15, but everybody else, the other 5, are all in that bracket, all the way up to my oldest now is actually 28. Seeing the 4 oldest graduate from college and establish businesses, and seeing my oldest become a parent herself now, 5 years into marriage, I look at that and I see how frequently my phone rings, or I'm pulled aside at a family gathering and it's one of my kids saying, "Hey, Dad, can I talk to you about?" And you just fill in the blank. And it's a parental conversation. And boy, what richness. I don't know anything that I could be more pleased or more proud of than that role of dad and seeing the fruit from it. So, hey, there's an encouragement to everybody, no matter what season you're in. If you're a dad, you never stop. Invest yourself fully and soak up the goodness.
I like that. You never stop being a dad. Chris, we've learned so much from you this past year. You talk about how you're just a half a step ahead of us in this EFM lifestyle and the ages of your kids. But man, we are watching you. Our listeners have learned a lot, and me personally, like making sure that I have the margin in my professional life to take those calls from my kids that are in their teens and then into their 20s. I'm already thinking about how I'm going to make that part of my scope of agreement with clients at that point is, if my kid calls, I answer. I don't care what we're doing because it's that important. So thanks for leading that way. So we've looked back, we've reviewed 2019, and now I want to step into the look ahead. Everyone's talking about 2020 vision and clarity and goals and visions. This is the time of year to do that, to get excited about it. And so as an EFM listener, we want you to sit with this question. This is question number 3 here is, how do I want to grow in business, as a husband, and as a father this coming year? And really take a moment, put some pen to paper on what would that look like? What would a year of tremendous growth look in each of those domains for yourself? And then finally, our last question, what am I most looking forward to in 2020? Spend some time to bullet point that. What are you most looking forward to? And guys, I want to wrap it up with that in terms of going around the room here. What are we most looking forward to as it comes to EFM, as it comes to what we're looking ahead to do next year?
I'm super excited about the EFM book that we're writing. I've already looked over the drafts of the chapters that you guys are working on. We're learning from each other, masterminding. I am going to be reading that book with a highlighter, trying to apply what we're saying so that I can just take my relationship with my kids and my wife to another level of intimacy and to be known and just have that sweetness, that sweet fellowship as a family and as a husband and wife in that relationship. In the band of brother fellowship that we've had, the 4 of us, there's just been just a level of accountability that doesn't come with, me and McGreevy joke around that some accountability can feel almost like sin management, where you tell your friends like, hey, call me out if I stumble here, there, or the other thing. But being known with a group of people where you can be honest about your weakness, talk about the desires of your heart and what God is leading you to, and then move towards that. I know it's been sweet with us, and I want to have that with my teen children, with my adult children, like what McCluskey has. I want to have that with your all kids when they're adults. I get super excited about hearing that Diego's on a call with McGreevy or McCluskey or Niemeyer. Our kids are reaching out to each other because they have these uncles and aunts just in the relationship and between us and our spouses, that we share that with our kids. And now we just have an awesome network for our families to be connected with, where there's just godly people that walk transparently. So 2020 is going to be a year where some of the seeds that we planted in our young families, Niemeyer and McGreevy, that we get to see the fruit of our children wanting to know about our businesses and know about our marriages and just have more of those powerful conversations. And it's a challenge, but it can be done if that's what we focus on. If we make it important enough to put the time and the energy in, then how can we not expect to reap a harvest? So who's going next? I'll let you guys pick it. As a middle school teacher, I used to do this thing where I put my finger on my nose and who's ever last. Okay, McGreevy, you're next. The last person to put your finger on your nose.
On and not in your nose. That's right. On.
I think I get excited about having a little bit more interaction with our audience in this new year. I know we've done a lot of talking together and having other EFM guys listen in on that conversation, and there's been some cool interaction, but I get excited about how can we be in front of more EFM guys, and how can we bring this message to the marketplace, actually put some legs on it and interact with businesses and individuals to really bring this message and make it help make it real in people's lives. So we're talking a lot about what that might look like in this coming year and how we can bring the EFM message to the marketplace, because I feel like it's so needed. And we talked about this before this whole thing started, is there's this message of grind and go after it as an entrepreneur. And then there's this message of invest in your marriage. And then there's another separate message of this is how you invest in your kids. And we've combined all those because they are combined. You can't separate them. They are such a part of who we are as men. I just want to help other guys see that and live that out and do it well in each one of those areas. And so I'm excited about putting some legs on it and putting some boots on the ground and having some, maybe even doing some speaking or some consulting around that, or having some events. And we have some work to do on what that might look like, but I'm excited about that.
Yeah, you sounded really excited.
Well, good, because I am.
Are you kidding? It's overwhelming.
I'm just going to echo what you shared there, Michael, because that is something that, as we each have had to grow into putting on this hat of becoming an EFM author this fall, having this manuscript, in our hands here pretty soon, going through that process of clarifying the message. And like you said, this is such an interrelated message. Someone coined that whole men are from Mars, women are from Venus kind of thing. And it was like, then they came up with women are like spaghetti, men are like waffles, like we can kind of section out our lives. Going off on a tangent here. But what I'm saying is this.
I'm getting hungry.
This EFM lifestyle, like you shared, McGreevy, is it's so interrelated. It's so layered upon each other. You can't separate one from the other. And that's something that, as we've clarified the book message and each of these chapters that we're writing, more of that message is coming to life. And what that looks like in terms of involving the audience, online, in person, on stages, whatever that could look like, I think is going to be pretty exciting. There's something in this culture about writing a book, becoming an author, that opens so many doors. And I am excited to, arm in arm with you guys, walk through those doors together. McCluskey, what about you? What are you looking forward to?
Oh, it's so much of that same thing, but it circles back for me first and foremost, as it does for all of us, to our own families. And my kids now, the season that they're in, so many of them and their peers are all looking at those big decisions of what am I going to do to make a living? And they're meaning primarily financially. So, of course, a lot of them are just getting jobs there, and nothing wrong with that. That's honorable and good. But it comes with all kinds of limitations, like we talk about all the time, in terms of your freedom with your time and your flexibility and income ceilings that can be built into jobs, as contrasted with entrepreneurism that we're so about. And so I'm fresh today off of having our kids, all 7 plus our son-in-law, and even our little grandbaby was there yesterday at the building that we purchased. I've talked about it here a couple different times in town. We purchased a 150-year-old church about 2 years ago, and we've been renovating it to become a small business incubator. It's called the Ink You Better. And we showed our kids who were back from college the things that we've been doing over these past several months. And we turned the entire building into a smart building. So it's got like 6 or 7 different Alexas all around, and a whole bunch of video cameras and all kinds of smart sockets that control different things. So we walked in with everybody there. Even Rachel hadn't seen this, my wife. We walked through the doors, and my son Drew, who had done a lot of the wiring and programming for everything, said, Alexa, play Illumination. And it was all pitch black in there. And she says, I am your angel of music. And you hear bum, 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 bum. It's the theme from the Phantom of the Opera, which
That's
our kids
awesome.
love. They call the top part of the incubator the Phantom's lair. So it's the Phantom music playing, and all the lights, of course, come on, and the popcorn machine's ready to go, and like everything, each room we went into, you've got these monitors. That's what I'm stoked about, is creating a space and having my kids and their peers be able to step into it and live in it, to have meetings and mastermind groups and presentations. And I'll interview local Christian business owners on their businesses to pour into this next generation a vision that's what we talk about here every week. An entrepreneurial family, well, we would say man. There's going to be women as well as men, but that whole vision of what's possible when you explode the limitations of a job and you say, what could you do if you had a vision for the life you want and you pursue a career that will accommodate it, that will facilitate it? We call that entrepreneurism. And boy, it changes everything, doesn't it?
Ship. Yes. We had to end the year with one more slip. That's okay.
Entrepreneurism.
2020 is about new beginnings.
Yeah, I call it entrepreneurism. The guys say no, it's entrepreneurship. So
I'm actually
it's called.
I love it.
I'm actually
I love
hoping that you don't make that change, McCluskey. That's how words get invented. The English language is a living, breathing organism. So that's
so
an EFM
good.
word. We have
That's very bigly of you.
So-
Thank you.
Very bigly. Well, it's a goodly phrase too. So, Chris, I love what you shared there, and I'm just going to end it with that. Is in these last 2 years, as we've continued to talk about these topics and these domains, we've clarified this message. One idea that I heard you say that's becoming more apparent is this message is for anyone that's listening. You mentioned that there's people going to be in the incubator, men and women. And I think that's one area where we are really honing in on is that we want to help you design the business you want around the lifestyle you desire and the people you love. That's what this is all about. And yeah, we've been talking to a lot of men and we'll continue to, but boy, this is a message that is, it's weighty. This is part of that whole discussion, this new American dream we're talking about. And I can't wait to explore what that looks like with you guys this next year. So I want to wrap it up with this. What about you? We spent this last year digging deep on these topics. And as you enter in 2020, don't miss the moment to pause and to reflect on what has this year been like for you. And so just to recap these 4 questions, 2019, celebrate it first. Number 1, what was the biggest challenge you overcame and the wins worth celebrating? And then number 2, what were you most proud of accomplishing and or who did you become along the journey of this past year? Answer those 2 first and then move into the 2020 questions. Number 3, how do I want to grow in business, as a father, and as a husband in this next year? And then finally, what am I most looking forward to in 2020? Take some time, put the pen to paper, and identify these answers in your own life. There's that saying that thoughts disentangle themselves, passing over the lips and through pencil tips. So take a moment, go through this exercise. We challenge you, we encourage you, and then jump into our Facebook group, efmlife.com. You'll find us there. Let's have more conversation here in the new year.